I want to welcome the faculty director of HPRI, who's going to share a bit of some of the wonderful things we have going on. He is the Albert G. Francis Lohman Feldman Professor tenured Professor of Social Policy and Health. He's the director of the USC Center for Homelessness, Housing, and Health Equity Research, which is sister organization of HPRI. He's also the director of HPRI. He's IRB chair around the university. He's a devoted husband and father. He's a bench press enthusiast. He's Ben Henwood. Show him some love. Ben Henwood.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the summit thus far. It feels like it's touching a nerve. This is a conversation I think a lot of people want to have. So I'm glad to see that. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Ben Henwood. I just wanted to clarify, I'm not the Ben who's bringing home the bacon. That is a different Ben who's meeting with some rich folks in Santa Barbara. So. Yes. No, I am a professor here at the Suzanne Dvorak Peck School of Social Work, and I just want to take a few minutes. This isn't going to be very long, but since I have you all as a captive audience, I did want to share a little bit about the research that we're doing here at the School of Social Work. And so if you take a look, what you'll see on our center's website, that we have a lot of projects that we've engaged in over the past 10 years. And a lot of them are with many of the organizations that are here today in the room as our partners in the community. And I just want to thank you all for those partnerships. Couldn't do this work without you all. But if you go to the research tab, this is the screen. If you go to the research tab, you'll see some of the projects that we're working on. And so I'm just going to highlight a few of them. There's a portfolio of them that has to do with permanent supportive housing using a housing first approach. And I don't feel like I necessarily need to explain that to this audience. So I'm just going to talk about the actual projects. So one of the projects we're working on, just to highlight there, is we're actually looking at how can smart home technology be used to support tenants in permanent supportive housing. So this is a collaboration we're doing with our colleagues at Cal State Fullerton. It's funded by the National Science Foundation. And we have some prototypes now, and so we're hoping to see whether those can be rolled out and be useful in supportive housing. During the pandemic, we actually were funded by the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute to look at differences in COVID-related outcomes and quality of life outcomes between project-based permanent supportive housing and scattered site permanent supportive housing. We worked with over 15 community agencies to recruit during that time. We had to recruit and collect data all remotely. This was done during the pandemic, but the research needed to go on. And so this was, obviously challenging for all of us, but we found a way to do that. So that the results of that are now available. The project is coming to an end next month. We also are currently involved with PATH as our community partner to look at basically supported housing, IPS, individual placement and support. It's an evidence-based practice that helps people get jobs. And so we're seeing how that works within a housing setting. And I don't think anyone from PATH is here with us today, if I'm not wrong, because actually they are presenting on this project with our partners at the Corporation for Supportive Housing at another venue, another symposium that's nearby. So they couldn't make it today. And lastly, we've also piloted a fall prevention program that improves daily functioning for folks that are moving off the streets and into supportive housing who are aging quickly. And so, we want them to be able to thrive, to flourish, to live independently. And some of you may know the model. It's known as Capable, and we know that the Downtown Women's Center is currently implementing that model. So that's kind of the portfolio that we have. I'll note that all of that builds off of Housing First, and unfortunately, Housing First is no longer national policy after the executive order just last month. So, as we've been discussing, these are challenging times. So we're going to, for our part, we'll continue to provide the empirical support that's needed to make, empirical policy-informed decisions, and also to support good clinical practice. We're school social work, we want to do that. And I think that's really about getting back to the basics, and that's what we've heard already today. Many of the speakers are talking about that. So in fact, we actually have some good news. Despite a lot of research being defunded by the federal government, just this past week, we learned that the National Institute of Nursing Research will be funding a 4-year study that we're going to do that looks at the health and housing outcomes of our county's encampment resolution programs. That many people have credited with a 14% drop in unsheltered homelessness over the past 2 years. And by the way, we're very familiar with those numbers. We help produce those estimates with the county. That's another project that we have. It's a challenging one. It keeps us on our toes. And we have our team members here in the room. But for this newly funded project that we're talking about for encampment resolution, we're actually going to leverage another one of our projects, which is the periodic assessment of trajectories of housing, homelessness, and health study, otherwise known as PAS, so a couple PAS here today. That's a monthly cell phone-based survey of a representative sample of LA's unsheltered population that we've been following since the end of the pandemic. So every month we get maybe 800 responses each month. So PATH is a collaboration with our colleagues at UCLA, led by Randall Kuhn, who's here with us today. And really it provides important research infrastructure to collect real-time data to understand the challenges that our unhoused neighbors are facing. And so we have some recent reports on the impact of the wildfires in January on the unhoused population, as well as more recently the impact of the ice raids on the unsheltered population. So those reports are available, and we have a website for the PAS project. For the new project that we just got funded, to our surprise, we'll be using that PAS platform, but we'll be targeting people who are enrolling in those encampment resolution programs. And that's a very similar design to another project we're doing to evaluate the county's street and field medicine programs that are funded by LA Care. And I don't think LA Care is in the room, although I think Charlie was going to try to join us this afternoon. So now the one project that I haven't mentioned yet is one on basic income that we've one of the few in the country that have actually distributed monthly basic income to specifically to unhoused folks. And we did this in partnership with Miracle Messages, which is a community-based organization out of the Bay Area. And we distributed over $1 million to our unhoused neighbors here in Los Angeles and the Bay Area. So if you'd like to hear more about the results of that study and what we learned in the process, that will be released. We're going to have a similar kind of get-together on October 23rd at the School of Social Work. There will be a live streaming option, so you don't have to be there in person, but we'll be talking about that project and releasing the results at that point. Okay, so to wrap all this up, I think, all this is to say that we're a research center. We're quite invested in using rigorous methods to produce empirical outcomes that obviously can inform national policy, but also has local utility to policymakers as well as those working in the field. Many of you here today. Yet today's event actually is not being hosted by our research center. It's being hosted by the Homelessness Policy Research Institute, HPRI. So what's the difference between those two? This is something we ask ourselves a lot, but actually they're very different origins and missions. And HPRI it's a collective impact model. And so what I just wanted to actually share, this is the mission statement for HPRI, and it's been mostly supported through the Hilton Foundation. And we're very grateful, and we know that they are changing their strategic vision. And so, we'll be having discussions about, who will fill that role if Hilton's not going to support a lot of the homelessness research and the homelessness work in the county. But this is the mission statement that was really developed collectively with all our members. And so I just kind of broke it out so it's a little easier to read. But HPRI is a collaborative of over 150 researchers, policymakers, service providers, and experts with lived experiences of homelessness. Many of you are here in the room today, and we really value you all and your participation. And HPRI does this as a collective. We accelerate equitable and culturally informed solutions to homelessness in Los Angeles County. So we have a very specific target. And we do so, right? We do that by advancing knowledge and fostering transformational partnerships between research, policy, and practice. So it's really about convening, having the space to have these conversations. And I can't tell you how honored I am to have worked with all of you and continue that work. And especially to Seth Pickens as our managing director. And I just want to thank Seth for his vision and leadership, because really today wouldn't have happened without that. So anyway, thank you to Seth.